feels so good to be back again.
And welcome to another School Psych Sunday. We're back, y'all. We are back again. It's been a hectic week, but I'm dropping another video. Before we get into these questions, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Make sure you like. Make sure you turn on that notification bell. And you guys, if you're returning, thank you so much. Thank you for supporting me. And thank you for watching these videos. Let's get right into the question. Well, the question is from Victoria Checo. It says, thank you for sharing your experience as a school psychologist. I was recently accepted into the graduate program. My question is, how would you compare and contrast being a school psychologist versus being a special education, general education teacher? From your experience, is there a difference in salary, workload, overall job demand? Thank you. Okay, great question, Victoria. And congratulations on getting into the school psych program. So definitely, let me look at this question again. Let's go to the first one. How would you compare and contrast being a school psychologist, special ed teacher, and a general ed teacher? So we can first start off with the school psychologist. Our main job role is to provide assessments to students to determine if they are eligible for special education services. That is our main job, is to identify whether a student meets criteria based on state regulations to receive special education. So that is the main job. Now, we do a whole list of other things, but that is our main focus as a school psychologist. So that means getting a student, assessing them, writing a report, collaborating, and going to the IEP meeting and determining if the student is in need of services from the special ed department. Okay, now we can go into a special education teacher. So there are 3 types of special education teachers. So we have the RSP teacher, which is a resource specialist program teacher, okay? That teacher is working with the general ed teacher with students who have a disability, but they're mainly in the general ed population. And either they're pulled out to work on goals or things that the teacher has, or there is push-in services where either the teacher goes into the classroom or the assistant goes into the classroom to provide that student with support. So that's the first one, is the RSP teacher. And, they have a caseload of pretty much 30 students. And they either do push-in or pull-out services. So they don't have an actual class. We're going to the second. So there's a special day class, special education teacher. So the SDC teacher. Then we have the mild moderate program with students with mild to moderate disabilities. Or we have the special day class teacher who are working with students who have moderate to severe disabilities, okay? And both of those teachers have a class all day. So it's a self-contained class. All the students in that classroom have disabilities, and their responsibility is to teach them and work at their level. Work on IEP goals, progress monitor, all of those good things. So those are the 3 special ed teachers, okay? Now let's go into the general ed teacher. So we all know what a general ed teacher is. That is the teacher who has students. Majority of the students in the classroom are students without disabilities, okay? And they're in the classroom 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, teaching those kids, making sure they're at grade level, working on Common Core standards, giving benchmark tests, teaching them ELA, math, all of those good things. So that is their responsibility. Okay, so that is the difference between a school psychologist, a special ed teacher, and a general ed teacher. Okay, now you asked about salary. So let's start off with the salary for a school psychologist. Now, this salary is what I have for the state of California. It will range from different states, okay? So a school psychologist can start off between 75,000 to 100,000+, okay? So that is the range for a school psychologist. Now, for a special education teacher, they start off between 50,000 and they can go up to 100,000+. And the 100,000+ is after years of service, okay? Years of service to get up to that range. To get up to 100,000+. General ed teacher is roughly about, this is an approximation for all three, 50,000 to 80,000 for a general ed teacher. So that is the salary difference. Now let's go on into, you asked about workload, okay? So we're going to start off with the school psychologist again. Now the school psychologist, and I'm speaking from my experience and talking to different school psychologists, we can range from having 2 to 3 school sites to manage, or even more. I've heard school psychologists say that live in, smaller rural areas that have to manage a whole school district. I don't know how they do it, and they're the only school psychologists. No idea, but it just depends on what state you work in and what district you work in on the caseload. But I'm going to say typically you have 2 to 3 school sites. Now with a special education, and with those sites, you have to manage that, okay? You have to manage that, like I've said in many of my other videos. You have to manage those sites. So that can be a huge workload. So let's go to general ed teacher and special ed teacher. Now the difference between the school psychologist and the teachers is teachers are on contract. They can only have a certain amount on their caseload, whereas a school psychologist doesn't have a contract. Now there are NASP standards where you're supposed to have a ratio, and I think I want to say 450 to 1, but don't quote me. I'll put the link down below. But there is a ratio that we're supposed to have. And I know it's less than 1,000 to 1 school psychologist. And I know most school psychologists are over that 1,000 mark for being a school psychologist to 1,000 students. And that's the entire school population, okay? Now, with the general ed and special ed teachers, they're on contract. They're on contract. So a special ed teacher for RSP, I think, and this is an approximation, no more than 30 kids on their caseload that they have to work with. An SDC teacher is no more than 20 kids on their caseload. And a general ed teacher, I'm going to say roughly about 30 plus students in their classroom. So that is the difference, okay? So they're on contract, we aren't. They can have a cap. School psychologists do not have a cap on the amount of assessments that we have to do, and the amount of requests that come in. So that is just to speak a little bit about the caseload, the workload, and just some more about the job demand. As you guys know, I've said it in several of my videos, for a school psychologist, you have to complete assessments, okay? That means pulling the kid out, doing an assessment, conducting an assessment, scoring that assessment, analyzing the data, writing the report, and either making that student eligible for services or not eligible for services. And that goes for a triennial assessment as well. School psychologists also have to attend meetings. I don't do counseling because it's almost it would be impossible for me to see any students. But some school psychologists do have to do counseling. Okay, and then we also collaborate with teachers, parents, in addition to putting out fires on a daily basis. So if an emergency happens, guess what? We have to drop what we're doing, stop, and go handle that situation. So that is the job demand for a school psychologist. And that's just, the basic. There's a lot more that goes into it, but that's just the basic things that we do on a day-to-day basis. Okay, now for a special education teacher, they have to write goals. They have to implement the IEP. They have to write the IEP. They have to attend meetings. They have to progress monitor. They also have to see the students either push in or pull out services. They have to attend those meetings, which are annuals. So each year, a student has to have an annual meeting. So that case manager has to have an IEP meeting for each one of his students on the caseload, either an annual or a 3-year triennial meeting. So that is for the special ed teachers, and that is SDC and RSP. Now, general ed teachers, their caseload or their job demand, and this is just what. Now, I haven't been a teacher. I haven't been a special ed teacher, so I'm just going off what I see and them doing, okay? So general ed teacher, responsible for teaching, of course. So they're working on Common Core standards. They're working on, making sure that student is at grade level. If they're not, providing interventions or recommending them for an SST, a student support team meeting. They have to grade papers. They have to attend staff development. So that is just the gist of what I think the general ed teacher has to do, special ed teacher has to do, and what I have experienced as a school psychologist, what we do as in our day-to-day job. So Victoria and the rest of you guys out there, I'll let you decide who has the most demanding job. Let me know in the comment section. Let me know in the comment section, you guys, who has the most demanding job. And remember, I'm biased. So I'm going to say that I do, because 9 times out of 10, I'm taking work home. I take work home with me every week. I don't want to say every day because I try not to do every day, but I do take work home with me. So, and I know teachers, they probably take work home with them too, but I'm biased. I have to write these reports for all of these students, and I'll let you guys decide on who has the most job demand. Okay, so let me make sure I answered all of your questions, Victoria. I think I did, but thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And stay tuned for the next School Psych Sunday. We'll be back next Sunday. Make sure you drop your questions down below. Make sure if you comment anything that you want to tell me. And thanks again for watching. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Love you guys. Bye.